Hello and welcome back to LV426, where hospitality is about as rare as Disney producing another Alien movie to rival the originals. However, in today's video I just wanted to discuss and compare most of the different Alien designs that have been created over the years for each of the films. So we'll go and take a quick look and talk about what looked good and stood out in style and design in comparison to all the others. For me, the fun part about this is that most of us grew up with these films, and therefore nostalgia will play a big part in my thoughts and feelings as we look at all the wonderfully sinister variations of what all stemmed from the genius of H.R. Giger. May he rest in peace. So if we start in chronological order, then we are going back to 1979 for Ridley Scott's seminal masterpiece, the first entry into the Alien franchise. When you listen to anyone who worked on Alien, Star Wars or any horror and sci-fi production in the late 70s, and well pretty much throughout the 80s as well, it just blows my mind how creative these people would have to get in the absence of CGI that we are all so numb to seeing these days. And I would strongly urge anyone young enough to have missed out and may not have watched these original films to give them a go. Because practical effects, when done well, like in Alien or John Carpenter's The Thing, are like a fine wine that gets better with age. It's no wonder why Christopher Nolan prefers to use practical effects whenever possible, as you still cannot beat what's real with CGI. So let's start with the original Alien from 1979. This beast is probably as close to the grotesquely disturbing conceptual artwork from H.R. Giger as it ever got. This is mainly because Giger himself spent much of his time working on the life-size model of the creature for the film. He would work alone in a little studio room, away from other people, which sounds like a dream job if you share my antisocial tendencies. So the alien was brought to life via a foam latex full bodysuit worn by a 6'10" Nigerian actor named Bolaji Badejo. At face value, the costume, although a fantastic achievement, does look very rubbery in certain areas. Mostly around the limbs and particularly the hands, but the film made great use of lighting however and cleverly went with the less you see, the more you fear it tactic. There must have been many physical limitations to the costume, as when you do see the alien, it appears very rigid in form and slow in motion. Like I said though, the classic man in the rubber suit trick works incredibly well with the dark settings and the way this film was shot. But with these issues aside, there is definitely something truly menacing that was born from its limitations. It's hard to put your finger on, but from its sleek and slender build and bowling ball-like smooth head, in contrast to the pointy, rubbery yet creepy fingers it possesses, every part of its design does everything it can to get under your skin and unnerve you. The mixture of biological and mechanical aesthetics in all the variations of the alien is a fascinating idea. I mean, there are even pipes that protrude from its back, for which there are many theories on this, ranging from filtering the air to laying resin. But I'd just love to travel back in time and watch the audience's reaction in cinemas to this creation for the first time. It must have really shocked people. Moving now to Aliens, one of the best bloody sequels ever made in my arrogant opinion. James Cameron had a lot to live up to and wisely decided to go in a completely different direction, not just in story themes but the creature design also. So from Ridley's Star Beast to James Cameron's Xenomorph, we now have a slightly smaller stature but certainly a more robust and warrior-like alien than before. The most noticeable change is the head design of the creature. Stan Winston and Cameron had decided to discard the eerily smooth dome in place of circles and ridges that ran from front to back. This design was also presented in the original Alien, but was covered over for a smoother effect. I appreciated the change of look and it does suit this movie, but I still found the original more menacing in appearance. The creatures here are more like soldiers and they are adjusted accordingly. They appear quicker and more armoured to the teeth. The biomechanical pairing is still very much present with this species, but felt a bit more organic in this film. From the dampness of the resin-stained hive walls to the monstrously high amount of salivation. I mean, in every scene these horrible little fuckers would dribble buckets of saliva before attacking their prey. This amazing and insanely visceral component did wonders to raise the xenomorph's believability to higher levels, and quite frankly scared the shit out of me as a youngling. Sadly, the third film was the start of a decline in the franchise, but if we just focus on the changes made to the alien, what we get here is the biggest change so far, in that the majority of what we see is not CGI, but rather a suit and rod puppet filmed in live action against a blue screen. This method, as well as CGI at the time, was just in its infancy and feels massively experimental in Alien 3. I mean, the lighting looks off at times and the speed of the creature within the frames looks very unnatural. There were two versions of the film, if memory serves me right. One where the xenomorph was born from a dog and the other a cow, I think. Sorry, not a cow, like an ox, a work beast. So I get that the idea was for the alien to be more animalistic in appearance and movements, but even for technological standards in those days, you are removing that element of realism quite heavily. The best elements in the film were when they did away with all that and used props and foam latex suits without a blue screen. There are truly great and terrifying scenes with the xenomorph that complement the depressingly haunting nature of the movie quite well. I'll always remember the scene when Ripley encounters the alien in the infirmary, after it kills the doctor and makes its way towards her in a manner which, to be honest, anyone could recreate with a blue screen and free video editor these days. The film then wisely changes to practical effects for a close-up as the alien analyses her. In the process, it demonstrates the significance of using real props, as we see the familiar dark black dome from the first film and almost metallic-like teeth drooling over her in delight. I didn't dislike the film, and I certainly didn't hate the alien design, but for all the capabilities this variation of xenomorph possessed over its siblings, the promise of something unique and special was tarnished by the reported studio interference to get the film out on time and on budget. Unfortunately, a tale we hear all too often. So on a final note, this was probably the smallest design of alien we've had, but possibly the fastest and most vicious. I'm not going to lie, I bloody hated Alien Resurrection. I wish Sigourney Weaver never took part in it, as I despise most of the story and most of the characters. I mean, what the hell is this? Jesus. For what it's worth, although the film for me is just a B-movie with nice visuals, when they showed the aliens we do know and love, they did a pretty good job at making the first CGI aliens look alive. I mean, at this point, we are not being scared anymore, are we? That's over, sadly. But they were a cool design, well animated and well lit in scenes. So nothing more to say really, as it basically just rehashed what we have already seen, and any new additions were just a bit of a joke in this film, to be honest. The AVP movies, Alien vs Predator, well, I only found them fun and entertaining because I switched my brain off completely and accepted that, well, if they don't care, then why should I? I think they just thought, how can we make the aliens more powerful, and then decided to crossbreed the Predator and Alien in one film, while in the first Alien vs Predator they simply kept the same designs but without the scares. The aliens seem to get a little bulkier as these films progress, I noticed, and a little less insect looking. For me, the whole idea initially was that they had that familiarity about them that can sometimes repulse us in nature, but at the same time were alien in origin, with a shocking perversion of both biology and mechanical purity that brought so much fear of the unknown to the screen. And we always fear what we don't understand. Prometheus, here we go. I enjoyed the movie well enough, but now we have black goo and idiot characters constantly coming into contact with the staff. Hence, somehow a new life cycle starts that eventually spawns the beast we all recognise. Well, not quite. We see the birth of this xenomorph right at the very end, which became known as the Deacon, because according to Prometheus director Ridley Scott, its head looks like a bishop's mitre, which is the Catholic Church deacon's pointed hat. Well, great. I can only assume that we'll never find out what happened to this little guy, but I imagine that as it burst out of the engineer's chest, then it would have become pretty damn large. On a side note, I did enjoy the new facehugger design in the film. I'm not quite sure why it was so large, for the simple purpose of impregnating a host, but it did serve as quite an intense scene between it and the engineer. Alien Covenant was the promise to answer us to all of those questions regarding the lofty ideas in Prometheus. Well, we never got most of those answers, but we did get to see more alien action. We see a fair bit of the original design style of aliens near the end of the film, and more than one of them as well. Its appearance is mostly the same, but mainly the alterations are in the way it moves. Again, the xenomorph is faster and stronger, as is constantly the theme, but this time it has more of a spider stance when attacking, showing signs of increased agility. If I had to go up against any one of these creatures, I think I would just go back to the first conception of it, as I would at least stand a chance of outrunning the damn thing. So there we are, we've looked at most of the xenomorphs that exist in live action at least, and I would love to know what variations you prefer in the comments section and why. For me, I would have to go with the xenomorphs in the 1982's Aliens. Terrifying enough on their own, but their organised efforts as a hive working together will stay with me forever. Not even an elite group of colonial marines with armour-piercing rounds were enough to hold them back. What I've also surmised from this is that as time goes forward, we've had stronger, faster and more deadly variations of the alien, but ironically, they seem to have less threat, less tension and less consideration given to them. This is mostly down to a diminished level of filmmaking, mostly, but also overexposure to the creature over time as well. Well, let's hope we get some drastic improvement soon with Disney's new Alien projects, but in the meantime, thank you so much for watching and stay frosty.